there's three overriding themes shaping the energy transition over the next 20 or 30 years. The first is the role of increasing prosperity. All of the growth in energy demand over the next 20 or 30 years is driven by increasing prosperity in China and India. A second key theme is the increasing competitiveness of global energy. Energy demand is growing less quickly as we get better at using energy more efficiently. But on the other side, improving technology means we get better and better at producing that energy, so there's an abundance of energy. Moreover, the strong growth of renewable energy means there's more and more energies competing for that demand. Perhaps a final theme is the continuing challenge of needing a more decisive break from the past if we're going to bring down carbon emissions to the extent needed to achieve the climate goals set out by Paris. It seems likely that oil demand and demand for other liquid fuels will continue to grow over much of the next 20 or 30 years. But at some point, that growth is likely to slow and we're going to see a sort of plateauing in oil demand. Exactly when that happens depends on the particular scenario you look at. But under almost any of those scenarios, oil continuing to play a major role in the energy system over the next 20 or 30 years. And on the supply side, a big role for US tight oil or US shale oil in providing much of the oil growth in the initial phase of the outlook. As growth in tight oil starts to plateau out, there's an increasing role for OPEC to meet that growing demand. We continue to think that natural gas will grow far more strongly than either oil or coal. We see growth, particularly within the industrial sector and also in the power sector as the world continues to electrify, and also with developed countries increasing their gas demand. The second sort of key factor underpinning it is the increasing availability of gas around the world with the growth of LNG. And the third is government policies around the world encouraging a shift away from coal towards cleaner, lower carbon fuels like natural gas. Renewable energy, particularly wind and solar, are growing far more quickly than any other energy source, accounting for around 40% of the growth in total primary energy, gaining share within the power sector far more quickly than any other fuel has ever seen in history. The closest parallel was nuclear power in the 1970s and 80s, but renewables growing even more quickly than that. The growth of renewable energy is underpinned by falling costs and increasing competitiveness. Some of that reflects just improvements in technology. Another key component is strong government support for renewables means they can grow more quickly, and as they grow more quickly, they get better and better at producing that renewable energy, and so costs fall. This strong growth in renewable energy means that by 2040, oil, coal, natural gas, and non-fossil fuels all providing around 25% of the world's energy. That's by far and away the most diversified fuel mix the world would have ever seen. So there's lots of new thinking on the mobility revolution in this year's Outlook. If I try and highlight just perhaps 2 points. One of the features of the analysis of electric cars is the importance of autonomous cars in thinking about the penetration of electricity in the transport system. Autonomous cars could lead to a big growth in shared mobility driving in the 2030s. Much of those shared mobility autonomous cars are likely to be electric cars. And those electric cars are likely to be driven far more intensely than normal conventional cars. The second thing we look at is just how quickly could electric cars grow and what implications may that have for oil demand. Suppose there's a worldwide ban on the sale of all internal combustion engine cars from 2040 onwards. So that's far more extreme than any government is currently thinking about. That reduces oil demand by around 10 million barrels per day. Now, 10 million barrels a day is a big number, but it's only around 10% of current oil consumption. And in that scenario, the level of oil demand in 2040 is still higher than it is today. So even if they were to grow very, very rapidly, electric cars are not likely to be a game changer for oil demand. Perhaps the most important feature when you think about the energy transition is what's likely to happen to carbon emissions. And that varies very significantly across the different scenarios we look at. But it feels like if we just continue along a path based on sort of the progress we're making over the last few years and the way policies and technologies have been evolving, that seems to suggest that carbon emissions are likely to continue to rise. A lot more slowly than in the past, but still continuing to rise. A central message is we're likely to need to see a far more decisive break from the past if carbon emissions are going to fall to the extent thought necessary to achieve the goals set out in Paris. Policies focusing on particular technologies, so improving growth in electric cars or pushing stronger growth in renewables, will help. But we're likely to need to see a far more comprehensive package designed to both improve energy efficiency and also encouraging a shift in the fuel mix away from coal, encouraging growth in natural gas and renewable energy. As an economist, I continue to think there should be a key role here to be played by carbon pricing, because carbon pricing provides incentive for everyone, producers and consumers alike, to play their role in achieving the energy transition. The main reason why we produce the Energy Outlook is to help our own thinking in BP. But we also publish it and make it available externally, part because we hope that contributes to the debate, but also because one of the best ways of checking your thinking is to make it available to everybody to look at and review. And if you find bits of our analysis which you think could be developed or improved, let us know. That way we can all learn about the energy transition together.